Hey everyone, welcome to the Untitled.jpg podcast where we talk about art, movies, and stuff. So today we have Diego Garcia. I did a show with him a couple years ago now, actually. I think I was already senior in high school, kind of going into college already. And I met him up there. I saw his work, and amongst other amazing artists, he stood out. And I finally get to talk to him for the podcast. So Diego, introduce yourself and let us know what you do.
Dope. Thank you, man, for that. I appreciate that a lot, man, because I felt the same way about your work for sure. Yeah, man, my name is Diego Garcia. I'm 28 years old, a Latino painter, emotional wreck from Long Island, New York, kind of just making a career for myself in this space, and I'm happy and blessed to be doing so. That's all, you know?
That's what we love to hear, man. So do you kind of, when you make a lot of your work, do you focus on like your background as a Latino and then make that part of your work, or is that just part of it?
You know, it's funny that came up in conversation a couple times over in recent years, and it wasn't so much a conversation early on, which I find kind of ironic because the irony of the kind of industry that is elitist, that is, you know, based on hierarchy, social status, whatever have you, whatever lane or lens you want to look at the art industry through, you know, I kind of found myself like being the youngest, brownest guy in a lot of rooms, you know, and I thought early on, you know, based on that narrative, based on how many times I had to address that or talk about that with a certain, you know, crowd or group or whatever
demographic.
Yeah. You know what it is. And I always thought that I used to think like, oh my God, I gotta figure out something. But I never wanted to be known as like, you know, no shade or anything to like anybody that goes that route or whatever. I think I just wanted to find my own identity at my own time and my own pace. I didn't want to do anything early in any direction, whether it was the actual like genre of my work, the medium, the message. I didn't want to really pigeonhole myself early. So I always said to myself, like, I noticed that was something I'd have to come across in my own coming of age and my own coming of my career. I'll just do it at my own time. So to answer the question, I used to think I'd have to address it a lot sooner, but only until recent years I've started to incorporate text in the last couple bodies of work. And it's really been an organic, beautiful way that's reached a whole ton of new people in a whole new way. And I love it. I'm sticking with it. It's kind of like definitely a part of my flavor now. And I've just started to feel like, all right, I'm not the little kid with a chip on his shoulder. I'm not like the young brown kid in the room trying to prove a point or trying to prove that I'm worthy to be here. Now that I know that I'm worthy to be here. I know I've earned it. I've put in my 10,000 hours. So now I'm using Spanish, you know, in my work, and I'm speaking in my own native tongue and using phrases or a lyric or something that I heard in English. I'll translate it actively into Spanish to have that level of a narrative into the work now that I'm ready for it. So now it's a space. Now it's a space that.
Okay, so now you're kind of using that to,
you know,
to like extend your work and have a narrative in that sense. But in the beginning, you weren't trying to do that because you're just trying to grow, you know?
Yeah. At first it was like, and it wasn't even out of like tipping this. And I had a conversation about maybe 2 months ago that resonates a lot. A very talented painter named Helena that I met, visual artist in a lot of ways. We were talking about that idea of like, you know, our heritage, you know, kind of infusing itself into our work. And for me, being born here, being like, you know, Hispanic American, whatever, me, there's like this kind of space that we dance in that like, yeah, I speak Spanish at home, but I had to go to school and speak English. And in careers and business, it's kind of the same thing. That assimilation is, older generations find that like a negative term, and younger generations don't really know how to efficiently assimilate. And I think my age bracket or anyone around me is in that safe, very sweet spot where like we're close enough to our heritage and close enough to the things we want to continue forth and teach our kin and teach our you know, inheritors, like whether it's kids, grandkids, friends, whatever, our social circles, our echo chambers. And as an artist, I feel the same way. Like it was hard to find a space to be Latino. It was hard to find a space. But now that I've done enough for myself, I can create that space for myself. And God willing, you know, when I have to give my body back to the earth and this is all done, I hope the next kid, you know, the next one up that looked at me for any sort of inspiration will say like, yo, he made that space so I could share it with him, or I could have it next, you know?
So when you started out with art, like when would you say that all started, your love for art and all of that?
Yeah. It started, I mean, like I've always been, you know, kind of into it. It's always been a skill of mine. When I was younger, I swore I was going to work for Walt Disney. I thought he was still alive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought it was still like I thought I was going to be an animator. Nobody could tell me otherwise. And I was always good at it. Like, I was always good at kind of copying things, and being raised by Walt Disney and like Akira Toriyama and Chuck Close, like all these animators that to me were like, yo, they're creating worlds. I love the idea of the storytelling. Not only that, the actual tangible skill of animation. So that's what I thought I was going to do. But ultimately, all that to say, it was just, you know, renditions of things that someone else has created. I was just good at that. I was just good at coloring and painting and drawing something that an idea I've been given, you know, I think.
Yeah.
And then to stem further deeper, like I really found myself. And I think the question of the way you said, like when I fell in love with it or whatever, was through graffiti. I started doing graffiti when I was like 12, 13 years old. And that was like, oh man, you know, like I'm just not good at drawing. This is who I am. You know, this is an extension of my tongue, of my hand. You know, I can tell stories here. And it was my ideas for the first time, you know, my letter structure, my color choices, my homies that were giving me game and putting me on to knowledge about the culture and stuff like that. And that even too, that was the first time I was exposed to the palpable opportunity that is sociology, you know, catalyzed through something like art. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always thought music culture was so fire. Like, music heads hang out with music heads and musicians jam with musicians. Art was always this solitary thing that I didn't get. I was like, yeah, I like it, but I've never had a friend to like, hey man, come over, let's draw. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
right.
It's a very and I bet you could relate too. It's a very solitary process, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something that like art I've always found is a bit of a drag. I like people. You know what I'm saying? I like conversing with people. So graffiti was that. Like that, I fell in love with the community, the culture of like, yo, I can paint with other people. And that was really where I fell in love with the idea of like creating and making art, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, art is a very solitary thing, but in its own way, it does still have its own community, you know? Like,
oh, yeah,
like you meet your people, but
right.
you're all creating on your own, but, you know, you can still, like, support each other in their own set of ways. But I know what you mean where it comes to, like, music. You're all jamming together. You're all, like, making music together.
Creating, if you will, together.
Yeah,
you know?
in a space, like, in a set space.
Yeah.
Same, I guess, with graffiti, because I have a boy that he's a photographer, like a street photographer, doing all the, like the graffiti. Like he goes to all the spots where people are doing tags and shit, and gets all that documented. And he's part of that community as well.
Right.
So, were you in this? You were saying you're in this at, like when you're 12 years old. So, are you going to like all these like abandoned spots and like creating work, or you kind of doing that on your own at home?
It was a little bit of both. It was the real story is really funny of how like graffiti just fell into my lap. Like airbrush culture was kind of becoming a thing at the time. And like I just got this, I remember, I'll never forget, I got this bomb ass trucker hat that like matched the pair of like Iversons or Fat Farms or something, or a pair of like ups that I had. Like I had these uptowns that like I just wanted to wear with anything I could get my hands on. Anything that matched those shoes, I was trying to get. And then I got this trucker hat that was just drop dead cool. And I had it and I started to learn the alphabet. I got it airbrushed with my name on it. Very horrible style in hindsight. But it was lit. At the time, it was so dope. At the time, it was so fire. And I was just kind of learning the alphabet for myself. And my best friend, who's still my best friend, who's like my brother to this day, I've known him since we were 8 years old. And he moved to Brentwood shout outs to Brentwood, the north side. That's where I'm from, on Long Island. And he moved to my town when he was 8 from Sunset Park, Brooklyn. So I would go to his family, you know, I would hang out with his family. They all had these stories of like this cool city culture. Fast forward, he catches me drawing this alphabet of letters of graffiti, and he's like, "Yo, like you do graffiti?" I was like, "I guess." I was like, "I don't know. I'd like to. Like, I think it's dope." And then he was like, "Yo, my cousins are getting into it too." Like, we just started kind of like getting into it, and no, that was it. That was it, man.
That's
you know
awesome,
what I mean?
man.
I was like the little brother of my graffiti crew for a long time before I became OG. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I was the little bro for sure for a long time.
So you kind of like self-taught yourself in that sense when it came to graffiti. Do you have any like schooling in a sense with art, or were you self-taught all the way up until now?
Yeah, self-taught all the way up, man. Like, I was doing graffiti for, God, for years. And then in high school, fast forward from middle school to high school, I was doing that. The graffiti culture elevated me. The idea of the artistic integrity behind my graffiti elevated me. So I was already kind of like balls deep in art before any sort of art class had any effect. You know what I'm saying? Like, because at the time, like what studio art, like those curriculums are, you know, for me, I was like, I know how to draw. I know what, you know, horizon lines and contrast. So I knew all that stuff from just being in love with art and like watching Bob Ross as a kid. Whoever is from the 90s who says otherwise is a liar. If you're an artist from the 90s, you watch The Best Joy of Painting, and that was the GOAT. Like, I just learned so many terms like contrast, horizon line, like complementary, supplementary, like negative space. I learned a lot of the glossary of terms from people like that and shows like that. And so all that knowledge being catalyzed with graffiti, I kind of had like a sharp blade in it. So then in high school, I started taking, you know, honors art classes. I was taking college prep courses. And I mean, that's about as deep as I got. I made my portfolio. I was taking any class that Brentwood had to offer. And then when it was time to like submit and get ready for college, all my friends were, you know, figuring it out and had it all figured out. I didn't. And, you know, in society, we sell education. We don't sell knowledge. You know, we sell this idea of what's profitable when you're done with it all. And we all know as artists, you hear a lot of quote unquote, there's no jobs in art. You know what I'm saying? There's only so many routes that the American education system will offer to you in college. I mean, in high school when you're preparing to make that choice, from my experience at least. And I just think that's a very overzealous thing. I think it's a naive and overzealous thing to ask a 17-year-old child what they're going to do with the next 4 to 6 years of their life, socially, economically, mentally, emotionally, you know? Like, I think it's crazy. So I go back, you know, senior high school, I was going to go to FIT because, like, that was the coolest school I heard about, and that was the only school I heard about.
That's where I went. Yeah,
it was like the move at the time, and it still is. It's dope. It's like, you know, and then I'm looking into what programs or what majors I can try or whatever. All that to say, I was terrified with the process, like scholarships, applications, and potential if it doesn't go through, loans. Or I was just terrified. So I go up to one of my teachers who saved my life. She's still one of my great friends to this day and helped me get my foot in the gallery game. I told her, like, yo, like, I'm terrified. I gotta be honest with you. This doesn't feel right. Like, I don't feel prepared for this at all. I don't know what the hell's going on. I have an older sister who's like, you know, a second mom to me. And I saw how much she hustled and how strong she had to be to kind of do what she wanted to do, being a psych major and stuff. I was like, I'm not like that. Like, she's made of steel. You know, I can't do that. I wasn't made of steel at the time. I was made of paper at the time, you know? So she was like, yo, my teacher said, like, I hear you. Don't tell your mom because she'll kill me, but don't go to school. And that was a pivotal moment for me because she was like, don't be dumb. Don't be like an idiot and like don't do nothing. Like, go to Suffolk, go somewhere where you can save your money and get the feel for what it means to be a college student. But like, don't go to somewhere where you're going to be in over your head because that's your money, you know, down the drain. There's no changing that. You know, like if you do bad, you do bad, and you're paid to do bad, you know? So she had a real heart to heart with me that resonated with me. So I did that. And then after that, she followed with something to this day, it still trips me out. Honestly, it feels like a lifetime ago, but I can still remember it. She was like, I don't think you have to work for anybody. I think you can make money off of your mind and your own artistic ideas. I don't think you have to be an animator or an art teacher. I think you genuinely have what it takes to like do something very different. And that was it. That was like, oh, in my head, I was like, yo, I'm Dali reborn, baby. Like, let's go. We on, you know? That was the battery in my back that I needed. Because I was a knucklehead, too. Like, black nails, like, skinned mohawk. Like, you can hear the spray paint in my book bag. Like, I was crazy. So she was, like, the one that really helped me snap out of it. She's like, yo, you need to wake up, man, and, like, kind of get on this because you could do it, you know? It's not going to be easy, though. Yeah. And that was it. That really was the turning point because then I kind of really, you know, put whatever energy I had left into the idea of the future, into like, yo, how do galleries go about, you know, hiring or booking artists? What do I got to do? What kind of, you know, glossary of terms do I have to master when that time comes for me, you know, or to prepare for that time to come for me, you know? And she helped me out, man. She pointed me out to a lot of food for thought. She pointed me out to a lot of artists that she felt I would resonate with, and she was right. Jean-Michel Basquiat, Mark Rothko, you know, whatchamacallit, Cicely Brown. You know, I was just talking about her with a friend today. Like, you know, I was just talking about Cicely Brown. She's a genius. Just these artists that my teacher was like, yo, you should look them up. Shepard Fairey at the time was like, yo, this is the pendulum swing in the cultural zeitgeist. It's lining up for guys like you because graffiti artists are turning into fine artists. Cause, Futura 2000, right. Shepard Fairey. I saw them all cross over. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was watching them. I mean, I wasn't old enough. I wasn't there in person, but online, like, these were the GOATs and the legends that we talked about in the graph game that now turned into the household names we see now in museums, you know? So she was like, what's going to happen by the time you're in your 30s is we're going to want to see what kids were watching that happen, what kids were raised from graffiti legends, you know, what artists were birthed from street art being the prominent form of contemporary art. So, man, she really just like, oh, my God, like, talk about inspiration.
Dude, that's like crazy to even think because, you know, like coming from Long Island, too, and it's just like, and we're in these like public schools that don't even emphasize a lot in art. So to find like a good art teacher that actually knows what things, like what's actually going on in the world, in the art world, and she had the foresight to actually like see something in you and like let you know, like, all right, then you don't need college. You have the hustle to do that on your own. You know,
that woman, man, she saved my life, man. Nicole Fran, like, if you listen to this girl, you saved my life. You know that. You know, we were just texting like, the other day.
Like, and then it's just like a lot of the like just teachers in general in high school are just pushing you to go to college. And a lot could be said where a lot of artists in our positions during that time, like you said, at 17, we're expected to know what we want, you know? Right. And I feel like I've had this conversation with a lot of artists that had an interest in it, but knew like, I don't know, I can't make money in art because that's all they've ever been told, you know?
Right.
And so I feel like a lot of, and then I feel like a lot of them go into art school, still not knowing what they want to do. They're just going just to get the degree that they think that they're going to get the job with.
100%.
And that's why, like, even in college, one of my professors famously said to our whole class that only 1% of you are going to make it in this industry.
Oh, God, I would have, God bless you, bro. I would have walked out right then and there. I was like, that's crazy. And like,
it's crazy, like, but
it's, I bet it's true.
I mean, it is because I feel like going into college for art, you see the kinds of people that will make it or won't. It's just, I feel like you have to put the work in, but a lot of people are just kind of treating it like high school where they're just cruising by thinking that just getting the degree is going to get them where they need to be.
Right.
But what's different about getting the art degree over like getting a degree in like accounting or anything? There's so many artists out there, you know, and there's so many things for specific like every artist does a specific thing. So you can't just copy and paste the same person and come out of college thinking that you're going to get a job.
1,000%.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's good to see that there's still like teachers out there that actually have the foresight to see that and see and like let you know that you don't need college for
Yeah,
a
man.
specific thing that you're interested in, you know?
Yeah, there's two
But
things on that, because like on the copy and paste tip, I agree. I've been saying that phrase a lot lately. Like, this is the age of copy and paste, and I hate it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, social media and the algorithms at play on the on the societal scale sell us this end result, sell us this outcome, sell us this image, sell us this idea of viral stardom or whatever, overnight processes that really aren't
yeah,
real. You know what I'm saying? They don't really exist. The only reason why they're
it's not
perceived
like,
as being, they,
yeah, it's
sure,
just like
there's a
that's
level
not
of
their,
truth, but
that's
well,
not, they're not showing their own voice. They're just showing the voice of that one person that came out with the concept, and now
right.
they're
Right.
using that
And
to
then
get more
even
eyes on.
so, at least to me, in my opinion, let's take like the biggest, let's use the genre that we're referring to of art. Like, let's take the biggest overnight, whoever, like, let's say somebody popped on whatever social platform or whatever. That's not to say that they wasn't double down X amount of videos before, or X amount of
Yeah,
years before there was a platform like an Instagram or whatever have you, wherever they pop. Like, there's just this end result that we get fed, that we receive, that kind of deters or distrays people, or distracts people from like the work that it takes to do stuff like this, to do these kind of jobs, and
yeah,
to make this
that's
kind
for
of level
sure,
of
dude.
artistry and stuff. So they'll see that and they'll be like, word, that worked for this dude. I'm gonna copy and paste and do it like in blue for the clients that want it in blue. That's not gonna work, man. That person put
Yeah,
their own spin and their own characteristics into that process that made it work for them. You know, you can take footnotes for sure. I take footnotes everywhere. I'm a sponge. Like, anytime I see a chess move, I'm like, that's dope. Like, the time that if it ever finds its way into my algorithm, I'll see a version of it that worked and I'll play it like that my way. Like, that's cool.
yeah,
But like,
yeah.
this
No, I
copy
mean,
and
it's
paste
just
stuff is
like
whack,
looking back
man.
at, it's like looking back at older artists. It's just you're getting like their concepts and everything, but you're making it in your own way.
Right,
But
right.
but it's
And
not
that
blatant
voice,
like
man.
plagiarism, you know?
Right, that voice is, that voice really means a lot, and that's kind of the second part. That's the second part. I said I had 2 points. That's the first point, that like I hate this age of copy and paste. If it wasn't for art, I don't even know if I'd have social media. You know what I'm saying? I use it as a tool to communicate what I'm doing to people
Yeah,
and my message. Other than that, I don't even know how much I'd be into it. That's the first part. And the second part is on the level on the tip of education we were talking about. Like, there's so much of that to me, like all of the above, that encompasses just knowing yourself, that it's mind boggling, it's baffling that that's still like new news. That's still like, oh my god, how insightful of you, wow, thanks. Like, what? It's 2021, man. We should be teaching that from jump to know ourselves. Like, I had to go shout out to Heckscher Museum. They put me on to go speak at their Superintendent's Day conference just last week. And I was over there and I was chopping it up. I had the opportunity to speak to 2 groups of teachers, of educators from like Brooklyn all the way to out east, city, East Coast, tri-state area, whatever have you, to sign up for this conference day. And I just was, I was told, just tell your story. It's inspiring. Talk about how, your career has led you to go do art workshops with kids and what you get out of that. So all that came from the heart. It was genuine. I'm talking to these teachers about, just being a catalyst for these children or individuals, whoever is the person you are educating, whether it's a peer, whether it's a student, just being a safe space for them to learn, and being the catalyst for them to learn and solve their own problems. There's a lot of this algorithm. There's a lot of this curriculum that is, we'll give you point A, point B, point C, and everything in between so you can get through the whole alphabet. No, the way I see it, art, being an artist is about really being confident and being able to get from A to B to C on your own. We just take footnotes from our ancestors, from our mentors, from the people that inspire us, and we see how they got to each letter. Okay, they did it this way. That's kind of the way I'll try to dance, and whatever comes for me will come for me in my way, in my time, And I was just explaining all this, like, that's all it is. Just, you know what I'm saying? I just know myself, and I move through life in that way, that anything's that, I don't paint it something that I don't feel, I don't say it if I don't mean it. I don't paint it if I don't feel it, kind of thing. And just
Right.
providing the children, youth, artists, whatever, as early as possible with the footnotes and all the food for thought for them to really dive deep into that question of who they are and what their language and their story and their narrative is. The sooner you get to that, the better, you know? And a lot of these teachers, I'm flattered with their critiques and their food for thought and their feedback. I was honored that all of them were like, man, you remind me of why I got into teaching. Isn't that trippy to me? I said, I'm flattered, but that
Yeah.
also scares me a little bit that some food for thought like this is so far away from our day-to-day curriculum and our day-to-day agenda with our youth, you know? I was like, it's trippy, man. Like, we got a long way to go. And I hope I can just be a contributing part to that, you know, in whatever way I can.
I mean, it seems like you have, man. I mean, you're going through all these workshops and shit, and
Trying,
just
dude,
chopping
trying.
it up,
You
you
know?
know.
I love kids, man. I
But
love kids. I love kids. I love the children. I love youth, man. Anything I can do to
so
make better seeds for the future, man. Anything I could do, better seeds of growth, you know.
yeah, so let's get into then before like because we kind of went ahead and talked about how you're in doing all these workshops now, but let's talk about like what was life like after high school since you didn't go to college. You
Yeah.
had to figure out how to make art and make a living out of it, you know, and
Oh
just
man,
kind of
I
make a
appreciate
career
you,
out of it.
bro. We're going
So
deep. This is dope.
yeah, so
Yo!
like because that's the thing
Yeah.
with a lot of aspiring artists now. It's just like they don't know where to start. Even after college, like even with me, I had no idea where I was gonna
Right.
be when I graduated. I'm like, okay, I have these sets of skills, I have the degree, but where am I going now? You know, and
Right. Right.
that's
Well,
really the main reason
that's
for this
yeah.
podcast.
I
Yeah, the
love it,
main reason
dude.
for the podcast. So yeah, so tell us what was your experience like not going to college and figuring it out all on your own, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you're saying that you're talking to galleries. So what was the first steps on that?
Whew. So, that's dope. I haven't had. Oh my God, this is dope. I could get like teary eyed, man. It feels like a lifetime ago, man. I put my whole life into this, man. It's been almost what? I graduated in 2010. So yeah, it's just tripping me out. I appreciate you for asking all these questions, man.
Yeah, for sure.
For whoever listens and has any sort of you know, inspiring notions about it, I'm flattered. I really appreciate it, man. I'm just blessed to be here to like just be able to, you know, I'm happy to just be doing be able to have the tools and the mind frame to do it, let alone that it's received. I'm flattered, you know. So all that to say, graduate high school. I went to Suffolk Community College for a very vague amount of time that I couldn't even tell you.
Okay.
I just did it to make my mom happy and like, you know what I'm saying? And just kind of, and it wasn't just for her. Like I tried to give it a shot. I was like, let me see what tools, what food for thought I could get from this experience. And socially, that's what everybody else was doing. So at least it just kind of bought me time to fade into my own life or to kind of build my own chapters and my own path. So I was there. And then from there, I mean, I was lucky. Nicole Franz, again, she like, you know, every here and there would, oh, this gallery's doing this, you should try to apply. Or, oh, I can submit your work to this breast cancer auction or something. And so I kind of just had some idea of like the terms that are being used in art and how applying, you know, donating, whatever. I kind of had an idea. So with that being said, it was kind of just really serendipitous for a while. I was just kind of working here to there, whatever retail jobs that didn't really kind of turn me into, you know, a corporate slave or anything. Anything that I could kind of, I still had time. That's the biggest part that whoever is watching on that early tip of things, like, don't be mad. I don't look at things as plan A and plan B, because the world will tell you that if you're emotional like I am and convicted like I am, that will make you feel like the world says what they're saying with plan A and plan B is just in case you fail at the first idea. Screw that noise. Let's stop that. As artists, as creatives, there's plan A and plan 1. Plan 1 will exist and coexist while I build plan A. I don't have a plan B because it's going to work. You know what I'm saying? I have plan A's and I have plan 1s, you know? So with that, like I said, that's kind of the first thing that made me develop that mentality. All right, I want to make art. That's my plan A. I don't know who wants to buy it. I don't know what I want to make yet, or like what's going to get me to pop or whatever. So my plan 1 is to get money coming in, that my bills are paid, and I don't lose an abundant amount of time. I still have time to work on Plan A, still have time to make art, and I have money to invest in art, because you got to spend money to make money. You know what I'm saying? Like, my prices aren't what they are because I just twiddled my thumbs and sang to the sky. Like, you know, I spent my money and like my time on investing on tools and trying different mediums and having an abundant amount of painting materials for when clients come, I'm ready to go. Like, you know, and I have enough tools to practice, you know, like, so my public at bat wasn't the first at bat. I had bought myself a batting cage, so to speak, you know, and I had a lot of tools to just paint abundantly and learn myself before any public eyes were on me, you know. But again, that takes money. You got to buy that stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So you're working your portfolio when you graduate.
Yeah, I sold a lot of that. Fun fact. I got into I made like a portfolio for college that I didn't use. I ended up selling most of it, you know.
And how'd you go about selling that? Was it just like word of mouth, or did you?
It was word of mouth, right? And it was so long ago that it's so vague now. It's like a lifetime ago. But again, from graffiti and from like being in the same hood for so long that like people knew I was that art guy, you know. So I was working on things here and there, trying to get, you know, tattoo designs, you know, people's birthday stuff, graffiti, whatever I could get paid for making art for, I would try to do. So the echo chambers become, he gets paid to make art. 10 years down the road, look at us now. He's an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the first tip, you know, like the first tip of things. Painting people's dogs. I painted so many dogs when I started out, man.
I still do that a couple times.
All know, we've all been there. Bro, we've all been there, man. I painted mad dogs. And so all that to say, I was just doing whatever I could get my hands on, actively looking for places to show work and like just trying to, you know, I would doing my research on local galleries, doing research on things I could access, because that's another part of it too, that maybe it's different being born so in the internet. Maybe we were coming up early before social media or whatever, so like all these things weren't that accessible. So, you know, looking up things that were feasible, setting goals that are feasible, that are possible. I wasn't ready for a solo show at 18, so I said, okay, I want to do group shows. Like, I just want to get my work shown publicly, you know. Make feasible goals, make responsible, realistic goals that you can achieve within X amount of time.
And that's important. And that's like a good point that you're saying there.
Yeah,
because I feel like what a lot of people do when they're coming out of the bat and like going on their own is just like, oh, I want to go on the I want to be in the Met. I want to be like in a gallery in Chelsea. And it's just like, yeah, you can get there, but there's steps, you know, like you gotta make realistic goals, because then if you don't achieve those goals that you set for yourself, then you're just gonna get discouraged.
You're setting yourself up for negative echo chambers, you know. You're setting yourself up for negative energies and stuff like that. Like, I had a show in Chelsea in 2016. I graduated in 2010, so there's a 6-year gap. You know what I'm saying? Like, just frame of reference for that specific notion that we're talking about right now. Just frame of reference, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was putting in mad time. And all that to say, you know, that's really the best answer for that early stage right after high school. Just doing what I could to get paid, friends catching on, word of mouth. Two of the biggest things that I had before my own solo show career was, the first one was I was driving down Bayshore. Like, I was on my way to Bayshore or something. I was on my way to a town out here on Long Island, and I saw at a Jewish synagogue that they had like open call for art. And
oh wow,
yeah, so I was driving this 98 Eclipse. It was purple. It was fire. I was on 3000. You know, I was the boy, in my eyes at least.
Yeah.
So I'm driving, and I would always have my paintings in my car. That's another thing. Be ready to cut a tree down anytime. If you want to be a lumberjack, you got to be ready to cut down a tree at all times. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to cut down a tree at all times. Right now, if you were like, yo, paint me something right now, I'd be like, let's go. I could outpaint anybody 8 ways to Sunday. That's not out of arrogance. That's out of just, that's how long I've spent mastering what I'm capable of. I know my boundaries. I know my limits. I know where I excel. I know my voice backwards and forwards, you know? Like, so all that's, I was always ready. Always had my portfolio on me. Always had something ready to go. I drive past this thing, And what had happened right after high school, that's a lie, like during high school, there's this like performance painter named David Garibaldi. He's from like LA or something. I don't know
Never
where
heard
he's
of
from.
him.
I think he's from the West
Yeah.
Coast. But I was obsessed. Oh, I was obsessed with his work. His work was so much fun. His work was so cool. And he did it in front of people. And he took after this algorithm of this guy called Denny Dent from the 1980s that did the same thing, these quick splash art, very action painting style works. And he did them in stencil method on black canvas, so they're easy to. I learned that. I learned the stencil method. I learned how to do what he was doing because I thought it was just so dope.
Yeah.
And I emailed him aggressively for like a year straight, like every week. Every week, I'd be like, "Hey, Diego, I'm kind of like losing my mind right now. Like, I'd really like some food for thought on how to go about this." I really thought every single week, I kid you not, from like 2011. No, it had to have been high school. It had to have been 2010 to 2011 for like my birthday to my birthday, December 6th to December 6th. I emailed him like every once a week for like a year and change, almost a lot of time. Finally, he got back to me, and we were like pen pals for all of like 2 seconds, but it was so influential. He really gave me a lot of knowledge, man, a lot of stuff that I had already known, and he just sharpened that blade. He was like, "Hey, man, so sorry to get back to you so late, but I love that you're so abundantly supportive, whatever." And I'll never forget the biggest food for thought that I got from him, aside from like whatever surface level compliments he had of the awful JPEGs I sent him. You know what I'm saying? Like, of the awful college, high school portfolio that I sent him. I'm sure he was just being nice, but thank you for being nice, David. If you ever listen to this, appreciate you, bro. Gave me a lot of food for thought. The biggest one that he gave me was like, find places that you can give your artwork, even if you don't make money. Find places where you can either show your artwork or donate it, charitable causes, because that builds your resume in X amount of owners and clients and, you know what I'm saying, collectors, if you will. And that's the best case scenario, that those people that receive your work lead to other people that will actually pay down the road. And the second thing was just get your work out there and ask people how they feel about it. Don't tell them you made it. Just get people's genuine, unfiltered feedback. Try to troll as much as you can. Pull up like you didn't make it and ask what people feel. Whether it's good or bad, it'll help you. It'll help you shape your voice, and it'll help you. You'll either agree with why they like it or agree with why they don't, or disagree with either or. And that right there is developing your voice, whether you know it or not. I thought that I was like, whoa, yeah. I was like, hell yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Thanks, David Garibaldi. And like, that was it. He was like, probably in his head, he was like, I gave you enough. Don't ever email me again. Like,
yeah.
Like, he's sick. But all that to say, that really helped, because that's where that triggered. I was like, word, now I just got to be outside kind of thing. I'm getting paid anywhere I can, but now I just got to get my own work, my own vision, my own style of painting, not commission, not stuff that people want me to do, what I want to do. Get it shown and see how people feel about it. Fast forward to the synagogue. I had a bunch of paintings that I was on that tip of. I cut traffic to jump into the synagogue because I realized that they closed like in like a couple minutes. So I run in there. And I forget the lady's name, smaller woman with like glasses and like a bob, right? That's like the short hair.
Yeah.
Very sweet lady. And she's like, "Hi," like whatever. I was like, "Yo," and I'm a main hag. I'm like, "Yo, you gotta be Jewish to be in this show." Yo, son, I was dead serious. I was like, "Yo, you gotta be Jewish to be in the show," because I'm clearly not, And she's no, it's not. You don't have to be Jewish to be in the show. You just have to donate one of your paintings that are showing and being displayed to be auctioned off in benefit of the church. We're going to sell, the paintings and donate that to the church. If you're willing to do that, you can be in the show if we approve of it. If it's like,
right. It can't be cool. Like nothing crazy.
Yeah. If it was cool, right?
Yeah.
I was like, that's dope. Can I show you my work? And she was like hesitant, like, "Oh, like, can you come back to?" I was like, I just got to show. I'm getting my stuff. So like, I kind of just ran over to my car, grabbed everything that I had, and I pulled it out and I lined it up in like the lobby. And I don't know. I hope it had to have been a nice gesture. Her reaction had to have been good because she bought something for me. But she was like in shock. She was like, yeah, you can be in the show. And I was like, I mean, like pale in the face, like, how long have you been painting? I'm like, oh, like since this or that. She's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 18. I couldn't have been older than 18 at the time. I was like, I'm 18. She was like, yeah, you could be in the show. She's like, just come early. You have a lot. She's like, do you have more? I was like, yeah, I have more. So bring it all. Bring everything you have. I was like, word. So in my head, I was like, I'm on. The Jewish community has faith in me. I'm on. Like, this is it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, this is dope. Like, I was hyped. So fast forward, the show comes along. My friend Marvin, who was another person, now that we're on this topic of like what I was doing before, right after high school and before everything really popped off, a friend of mine was working in film, and he was like doing commercials and music videos, and like he had an ear and an eye for like how this pendulum was going to swing. He was the first one, like, yo, get on Twitter, get on this, get on whatever, like have photos ready to go and deliver to people. Your portfolio needs to be online in the next 2 years. It can't be physical anymore. Like, you know, he really gave me a lot of food for thought. Shout outs to Kitty, man. Kitty put me on a lot of game that, and he was, and shout outs to him too for another reason too. He was like the first person, friend, whoever, that treated my work like it was serious. Like, he treated me like an artist. He's like, yo, like, don't treat these paintings nice. He took all my portfolio pictures for me. He talked to me like it was a business before anybody else did. You know what I'm saying? He talked to me like a professional. You know, we'd practice dialogues. All right, so I'm like, I'm a gallery owner. How you gonna talk to me? You know? And he really had me in his basement, just kind of, man, just putting game. We was just kind of, I felt like I was
coaching you up.
Yeah, I was like, I felt ready to go. I felt invincible like Michael Jackson. I was ready to go. I was like, you know what I mean? And so he gave me a lot of tools. So he came to the show. And my friend, the graffiti artist from Tennessee, he lives in Tennessee now, the one from Brooklyn, he came to the show. Him and his girl, his now wife, my sister-in-law, them three, and my mom were the only people that came to the show. It was lit. So us four had a great time over there, and my girlfriend at the time was there. So that's cool. So it was us there, but I did exactly that. I walked around unbiasedly. I checked out other people. I kind of did a little bit of scoping on who's doing what and why they're doing what. Anybody that passed my work, I'd kind of chop it up with them, and a lot of key terms, a lot of common factors, street art, color, expressionist. Before I knew it, I walked out of there with like, oh, okay, I kind of know if a newspaper rolled up on me right now, I could use at least 5 of those comments. You know what I mean? Yeah. At least 5 of those critiques because I agree with them. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's food for thought. You know, the painting that I donated sold for God only knows how much. And then one of the lady that got me in the show bought like a painting for like $125 or something. And woo, I thought I was on. I said Taco Bell on me. I was ready to go. You know what I mean? Like, it was dope. That was cool. Like, that was dope. And that was kind of just the algorithm for a long time. Just applying to shows and getting into what I could and doing my own thing. And then a big factor of it too, was while this is all going on, I'm trying to get here, I'm trying to get over there. A random encounter led me to like be part of this documentary for this college kid from the city that I never ended up seeing. I don't even know if it ever happened, but it led to like connections in the Bronx, and it led to connections in Harlem and like in Brooklyn that like I have people that I still keep in touch with to this day off of this doc that I was like 19 years old being a part of, and I just brought my artwork everywhere I went. You know what I mean? So it just kind of, oh, that was dope. You want to show here? Or I got you here. Like, I'll get you a plate to eat over here or whatever. And that was kind of just the way it was. Very bohemian style, like whatever I can get my hands on. But, I mean, I don't like how serendipitous it all was. And that's not very tangible, you know, for someone that really wants to make it work. I think the food for thought is to just get out there and really be a sponge as to what people feel about your work, you know, whether you're selling it, whether you're showing it on a phone or on a wall. Like, just be in places, galleries, friend groups, whatever, be in places where you can dissect your work with people, where you can get unbiased opinions and critiques. Just be in places like that. Because even when I
Yeah,
wasn't
you gotta
actually
have
tangibly there.
you gotta have tough skin too
Oh
for something
yeah,
like that.
dude! I have a jacket
Yeah.
that I made with my friend that says "piel de cuero," which is leather skin in Spanish. You gotta have leather skin for this stuff, man. I didn't for
Yeah,
a long
yeah,
time, and
because dude, I mean, even in college too, man. You're in like you're having your work in on the wall, and then you got a class of people on top of the professor just ripping it apart or
yeah,
loving
it's
it,
tough.
but
I
you
can
don't
imagine.
know until it's up, you know. So
Right,
it's just like you can't take that kind of stuff personal,
right. And that's
because
I'm glad you said that too, because I find that even for me, of course, there was learning curves for sure. I'm human. I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? I'm a work in progress, just like anybody else. But even in that truth, I always found that to be a very strange concept that people, I guess, like being such a big Michael Jackson fan, like I saw this interview that he did for Ebony Jet magazine about Bad, and they was kind of talking to him, addressing like, "Yo, do you see in the news what they talking about this or that?" Yo, this guy is the biggest superpower in the world culturally, and he literally was like, "Yeah, I read it. Like it hurts sometimes, but." Literally shrugs it off, rolls his eyes, and goes, "It's part of the work." I
yeah,
was like, man, that's it. That's the mentality, dude. Like,
yeah,
So I
yeah,
always found that very funny in art that like I meet so many painters that are, oh my God, I'm so shy or whatever. It's yo, you signed up to get it publicly dissected by
yeah.
the
I mean, that's the
masses.
whole thing. That's
That's
the
what it
whole thing.
comes with, dog.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, get your weight up. Like, don't ask to be in a show if you're not okay with that. And that's the brutal
yeah,
truth. I've been pretty cold about that with people. Everyone knows I'm like an athlete. Anybody that knows me well enough. I treat this like a sport more than I do an art. That I do an expression. I treat it like there's an athleticism. I train a couple hours a day, and it shows in
hmm
my catalog, and it shows in my capability that I train every day. And if I don't want a championship fight, I'm not going to train every day. But I train because I want the
yeah,
championship fight. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Like, you got to be hungry
I-
for it. You got to be ready for these things that are going to come. It's inevitable. It's
and
inevitable.
that's what I mean. Where it's just like you can tell who's gonna make it or not because
Right.
of that kind of attitude, you know. And that's what a lot of college is filled with. It's just people that are too shy to show their work, or it's just
Right. And
like
it's no shade. But that's even too, Albert. That's the other part of it too. That's I maybe it's inevitable. It's true. They're young people at schools and institutions and stuff. Maybe that's the message moving forward to academia. Make better spaces for these kids to be shy. Make better spaces. If that's inevitable, let's catalyze like courage. Let's catalyze conviction. Let's catalyze versions of space of classrooms that build confidence, that build like, yo, get that in kids' heads early.
yeah,
Like the more artists that know that early on, the better. The more artists we'll have in the future. The sooner you know that, the sooner you can get to the really nitty gritty of like who you are and what do you want to say. I tell everybody that's ever asked me the question, those are the two most important things in the creative industry, or I think in life, let alone the tangible creative industry of art or whatever have you. Who are you and what do you want to say?
hmm
If you can't answer either of those questions, one or the other, this is going to be very hard for you. You know what I mean? This is going to be a very
yeah.
complicated journey because even when you know those questions, it's very complicated. It's very,
It's a whole, like you said, it's a whole journey in of it. In what's the
in
fucking
and of
phrase?
itself.
Exactly. It's
Right.
the whole journey in that sense, and you gotta just wing it, like go with it and hustle with it, because there's gonna be lows and highs in the whole
Oh
situation.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good point too. That's another thing that if there was anything, I don't regret much of the whole process. I could have been smarter here and there.
No, yeah,
But
I've
if there's
learned a
anything
lot
I
on the way.
genuinely like, man, like if I could go back and fix anything, be okay with the slows, be okay with the lows, be
Yeah,
okay with the
yeah.
highs and celebrate the highs.
And I
Like,
think another thing that a lot of artists go through too is just like they see other people like excelling, early
yeah.
on. Like they're in their
Hmm.
20s and they're in these huge galleries. They're selling pieces for thousands of dollars, and then they look at themselves and they're the same age, but they're not there yet.
Right.
And art, which is amazing about it, but also like tough, is that you can make it at any point in your life, you know?
Yeah,
You could be in
man.
your 60s and be killing
Still
it,
be
or
killing it or still be
yeah,
popping
exactly.
off, you know?
And it's
That's
just
that,
like
it's
it's
so
just
true. Like,
patience you need. Yeah.
yeah, patience. That's what it is. My three favorite words are patience, accountability, and empathy. Those are my three favorite words. There's not a lot on this earth that's possible without those three things. Those three things are very crucial in the human experience and in a successful human experience, in my opinion. Accountability, patience, and empathy lead to a lot of possibilities, and art has only validated that time and time and time again, where people get tired and pigeonhole themselves out of like, oh my God, is this it? I gotta cash out now. I don't know what the next hand is gonna be like. I've said
Yeah.
patience. My time will come for me. I'm not pigeonholing now. I'm not done now. Or I'm gonna keep going on my tip. I'm gonna go on with my gut or my intuition. Empathy. Empathy for people that don't get it. Empathy for people that don't understand or do things in a way that maybe I wouldn't. And it's okay. We're all humans. I don't have to be your role model. You don't have to be mine. You know, we can be in the same field and agree to disagree. Empathy. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And accountability, I think, is the biggest one out of all of them in relativity to what you just said of like, you see somebody the same age or whatever that's doing better or popping off or whatever, and you're not, have the accountability to like hold yourself accountable for like what's lacking in my algorithm versus theirs. Hold yourself accountable, and man, maybe he's just got it and I don't. And I just got to learn a different way to go about it. My feet move different. I got to find a dance
Yeah.
floor that's right for my feet. Have the accountability to say, yo, that I'm genuinely good enough. I'm not exposed to these tools. That's what makes this person work or sell over mine. Or that's just not my bag. Not every bag is for everybody. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And I
Like,
mean, I'm not saying to also just like compare yourself to them, because then that's a whole other like spiral that it's just never
right. And even that in
gonna be
itself, right?
working out, you know?
Even that has its level. And then that's another thing
Yeah.
too. Accountability. Yo, stop, compare, like, get your head out
Yeah,
of
because
your ass
everybody
and
has
check your ego. Like, let it go.
everybody has their own style, you know. You have
Right.
your own thing going for yourself. You're gonna make it in a different way than theirs. There's not a
Exactly.
set formula on how to
Exactly.
make it in the industry, you
Exactly.
know?
But we live in the era of algorithms, so like everyone
Yeah.
feels like it's something that can be duplicated. And I hope, I hope, again, it goes back to something that we touched on earlier. Like, I take footnotes. I hope,
Yeah.
you know, I hope anybody, I've met a lot of my peers, like a handful of my mentors or my people that I idolize, Brian Carhagas, you know, Tu's essay of You Are New York. Like, those are the homies now. I've met on my shown artwork with them. Those are people I hang out with. I chill with. I call them my friends. Ivan Orama, another one that's, you know, I kind of came up right under him, and I was watching him pop off, and now we're homies. Now that's my brother. So, you know, people that used to be my mentors, now my peers. I talk to them transparently, and I take footnotes all the time from them. And I hope someday the peers that I, hopefully, God willing, if I do this right, that I once have mentored will look at me in the same likeness. Like, hey, I took notes from how you played, you know, pop style, or how you played, you know, Summit in Huntington or whatever. Like, that show you did, I played that card in my way and it worked out. Like, that's something I got from you, you know. That's
Mm-hmm.
all it's about, you know, taking game from people. I relate to art in my head, and when I translate it to people, I use a lot of sports and music terms. I don't really use a lot of art terms. I use terms like from the music industry and terms.
Yeah, I've noticed you have a
related
lot of metaphors for a lot of
Yeah,
things that you said.
that's the way it
Yeah.
makes sense to me. You know, that's the way it just,
Yeah.
because it's all, art is subjective, but it's not. Like, I'll let everybody in on a little secret. Art is subjective, but it's not. You know what
What
I'm
do you mean
saying?
by that?
It's the same as music. In relativity to the analogy, music is subjective in the sense that you may like jazz more or less than someone else, and someone else may like jazz more or less than you. And there's a pocket of people that just like noise presented and sold as jazz. But at the end of the day, there's the difference, and there is a difference between a good horn player and a bad horn player. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Music is subjective into who chooses to digest it. But there's a difference between a poorly made song and a poorly produced or composed song and a well-produced song. There's academical facts, if academical is even a word. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's academic facts that prove that this song genuinely accesses these music algorithms or strategies or chord progressions that stimulate this part of your brain. It's a fact. Eminem raps in iambic pentameter. Like, that's a fact. He is a good lyricist. Whether you like his music or not is subjective. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, John Coltrane wrote A Love Supreme in Dix Hills out here on Long Island. There should be statues made of that man. But there isn't, because he's black and he made jazz. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not everyone celebrates jazz. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not everyone celebrates or understands why jazz is important, or why A Love Supreme is studied in textbooks in universities. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's subjective, but it's not. And the same thing goes for art. It's subjective in your taste and what you may like over other things, but there are academic truths that make a good painting and a bad painting. Negative space, composition, fullness, color saturation, color theory. I learned this on my own. I learned this being a bookworm at the library, because I didn't want to go to ours. I learned this by myself. I put in my 10,000 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, whatever emotional riff I go on, I break it down into like, yeah, that's what I had to say, but this is the composition of the work, and this is the balance. This is what I went for. This is the scheme. This is the complementary or supplementary balance I was looking for. This is the negative space and what I wanted that negative space to serve in the overall narrative. These are things, if you don't know this stuff, it gets me so crazy. It gets me so crazy. Like, let's stop being so hippie and expressive. Let's make genuine art that stimulates people. Let's talk to each other and talk to me in a language that I can understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't slur your words. Talk to me. And that's how I feel about art. People that make paintings that don't know all this stuff, I appreciate you, and you have every right to talk and to speak, but your words are slurred. I don't understand, you know?
Yeah.
If you want to speak to everybody, learn your language, you know? Sorry, I get passionate, bro. You get me on a rant.
No, I see it. I love it, man.
That's how I get with everybody, man. It's true, though.
That's great, man. But I'm curious to know then, if it wasn't for art, what would you do?
Oh, that's a great question. I ask myself that all the time. I don't know. I always make the joke because it's true. If it were up to me, I didn't choose art. Art chose me. That's 100%. Whenever I have a conversation with my maker, I know that. That's a question I won't have to ask. I used to want to ask, why me? Yeah. I know why. I know this chose me for sure. Because if it were up to me, I'd be a tap dancer or something. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like something big. I mean,
I try and ask myself that all the time. And I just, when I applied for college and everything, and like, I tried to look at like, you know, the stable jobs and shit like that. And I knew I was good in science. I was good in history, but it's just like, nothing was there for me. I was just like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing this, that, or the other. And it was just like, art was always a constant thing for me.
Yeah, I think, I agree. Cause like, I don't know. I have two perspectives on that question. I have, the first one is, you know, art is all I know. This is, you know, this is who I am. I think, you know, I can't see myself doing anything else. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how my life would go any other way. I don't know.
Life just looks dull without art.
Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'd be doing. I don't know what interests. I'm not a sports guy. I'm not like a jockey dude. I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very, you know, like, I'm aligned with myself in those ways that like, I really want substance, maybe something in film, but that's still an art form. That's still an expression. I can't see myself. And this is where the question has two pivotal points for me. That's a fact. But when it comes to the actual making of paintings as a painter, if I couldn't make a career off of like my voice and my idea, my intuitions, my fears, my insecurities, again, going back to the music analogy, if I couldn't make real authentic albums, you know, I wouldn't want to be no pop star. I wouldn't want to be no Katy Perry. You know what I mean? I want to be Tupac. I want to be Michael Jackson. I want to be Kendrick Lamar. I want to be I want to be John Coltrane. You know what I mean? Like, I want to have a really authentic voice. And if the universe opened up and said like, yo, those like emo paintings you make, like LOL cool, but they're not going to hit. I don't know if I'd want to be a painter. I don't, if they were like, if the universe was like, yo, you got to like paint dogs forever. You know, I've met people that like, I'm just happy behind a brush, or I'm happy making something. I wouldn't want that. I'm a storyteller. I think, you know, whoever credits me for my talent, I'm absolutely flattered. I don't take any of that for granted. I'm humbled, but just as if you're crediting my talent, if my tangible skills as a painter, you're crediting, unbeknownst to you or knowingly, you're crediting my ability to tell stories. That's how I tell my people. That's what I tell people. I'm just letting the dead homie tell stories through me. You know, like I'm a storyteller more than a painter sometimes. You know.
So then let's get into like one of your solo shows, because you're saying that it has to do a lot with showing your voice and showing what your convictions are during your shows.
Yeah, man, 100%.
Is that what your solo shows all entail? Like a certain genre of a topic that you're thinking of?
Yeah, I mean the first show, the first two shows. So, and then this kind of lines up with the conversation beforehand of like what I was doing. You know, I was working. I got a cool opportunity to work for Nicola Formichetti, who's like Lady Gaga's head designer, through a friend of mine. Shout out to Justin. Yeah, that's like my brother. We met, and he's just been a big supporter of my work since we met. And his cousins in the fashion industry lined me up with a bunch of work. So I was just in and out of these random commission gigs and like stuff like that while I was trying to get my gallery game up and making work to be in galleries, you know?
Yeah.
So while I was making all that work, so fast forward 2014, 13. Oh, and another key factor to that, to answer your question of the show and stuff, my friend and brother, business partner, best friend, a multitude of things, Dudley Music, him and I have known each other since grade school. And then when he started kind of making music and I caught wind of it, he had caught wind of me making artwork, and tapped him on the shoulder for an opportunity that I had, a solo show in the Bronx that worked out. And the live act like flaked. They had like the flu or something. And like my homegirl who was curating, like, yo, I need somebody, like live music's got to hit. People are going to come, but they ain't going to stay if it's kind of just this empty space. People know it for the live music. I was like, oh, my buddy plays like 1,000 instruments. I'll give him a call, see if he's down. And he did. And we shut it down. And he was like, yo, let's do this like forever. I was like, word. You know what I mean? Like legend goes. And then we started hosting shows on our own, and like hosting shows out of like storage, like garage spaces or whatever, and like just making shows when nobody else would let us in the door kind of thing. But while all that was happening, I was just making art. I was just making art and practicing, selling it, showing it, talking about it with people. That was just perfect practice. Like we built our own sparring cage when like we weren't allowed in the UFC kind of thing, you know? So by the time we got a belt chance, we was ready to kill people. We saw red, we saw blood, you know, we played for keeps on my ends, you know? Like, so fast forward to answer the question, I was really doubled down in the idea of like concept albums, of like conceptual work that kind of had like an ongoing narrative or thesis throughout the whole body of work. And in 2015, it was my first solo show. And it was kind of like, it was this return to innocence, you know, complex synthesis of like, you know, the serendipitous nature of life that we often forget as adults. I remember that being one of the key points of like the press release or whatever, at least for me, like that's like what I wanted people to get out of it. And like I made a short film for it. And so the next show after that in Chelsea in 2016 stemmed from a client of that show. A friend of mine that bought something was working on Wall Street, and he lined me up with a crazy opportunity sponsored by Red Bull. It was a, you know, fundraiser for the Covenant House. Shout outs to the Covenant House for working with us. It was dope. So it was, again, that conceptual idea of like, I'm going to make a whole body of work that relates around this thesis and really ties in this narrative. It's a concept album. It's all kind of feels the same. And even if it doesn't feel the same, it has the same, it all tells a narrative. It all tells a continuous story, you know? And then in 2018, I broke off from that. At least personally, I broke off from that for a little bit. And I kind of just, there was a lot of everything. It was a little bit more of like a coming of age thing. And I liked that relationship that I had with that work. And that work, that body of work probably was my most successful to this day. If like I'm breaking it down in like business, probably, you know what I'm saying? That might have been my thriller for the first chapter of my life. You know, I haven't even gotten to the starting line yet, but like my, you know, my early years, that might have been the thriller. And I'm on my bad era right now where I'm working on something that'll top that and build that. But there's also, and then fast forward the show in 2019 and this year in 2021, those were conceptual again. Those were concept albums again. I went back to this ongoing narrative of this very streamlined thesis. So to answer the question, I think it's a little bit of both. I think my work specifically, it's gotten to the point where the first two shows that I referred to in 2015 and 16 felt like a one-off story that I was trying to tell. And from the 2018 show on, I think it's just a coming of age. The same way you look at a Kendrick Lamar album and you kind of just dissect how his cadence has grown, regardless of whatever topic he's talking about, you realize how much he's grown as an artist, you know? And you listen to Michael Jackson and like every album he tries something new, but he still does, you know, he has those bops and those, you know, and snaps that make it Michael. So you still feel like you're getting Michael because you are getting Michael still. Or A$AP Rocky, you just listen to the progression and their storytelling and their cadence and the way they rap or the way they sing. That's kind of the way I move forward now after those 3 hit shows, like 6 shows now. Holy moly. I said 3, there's 6. Oh my God, I'm getting old, bro. You know what I mean? Like
it's always good to have more.
Like that. I look at it like that. Yeah. I'm just trying to have, I don't make work for 1 year and it's going to be this theme now. I make work with like a 5-year plan now. I make work with like a 7-year plan now. You know, I want to look back on my work in 7 years and be like, yeah, I'd show that today. Like the work that I'm making today it would be cool to accent how much I've grown and what this piece led to that. And that's what I'm getting out of my collections now. I'm flattered. I started showing, you know, instead of an all new body of work, I'll pick 1 or 2 of my favorites from the last show and I'll show it with it. And people are connecting the dots in real time. I see it. Like once they see the date on the title card, they're like, oh man, I can see how this led to that. And look, that's a similar technique. And that makes me so happy. That's what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
Is, you know, grow in real time and document my growth on canvas. You know what I mean? Like go through the human experience and document it on canvas, you know?
So what was the topic for your last show?
Oh, that's the one. So the topic for my last show, in 2019, I had a show called Clarity at Muñeca Art House. Shout outs to Muñeca Art House and shout outs to Huntington Arts Council to forgive me the grant to make that show happen. And so I had this show and it was great. Like the teams all involved really let me kind of just dive deep into what I wanted to dive to, and the theme and the message, or to answer the question. Clarity, the whole body of work was based on this analogy that, as corny as it sounds, it came to me in a dream. I woke up like in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, like in tears, like, oh my God, like this is it. You know, like I was going through some things personally that echo chambered and resonated and ripple affected into things to this day. And it was a crazy pivotal time for me. So I had this dream and it equated to me waking up and writing this analogy down of like finding clarity in your life. And I even used it in the promotional campaign. I paraphrased it in the video, in the trailer, that like finding clarity in your life can feel like being lost in the woods and having to find your way through the wilderness, you know? And that's really what it was. That's kind of the visual, that's the analogy that set forth the visual palette that I built the whole collection of work on. This nocturnal drive and run through the woods, like this feeling of playing manhunt as a kid, and that serendipitous kind of rush of the night times from sunset to sundown, you know, like this kind of nocturnal drive, this nocturnal color palette of these androgynous characters, these androgynous childlike humanoids acting out my feelings, acting out my personal experiences in the moments where I've been looking for, have lost, or have found clarity, you know? And that, I thought it was just something I had to get off my chest. I thought like, okay, whew, I said it. And I had a very directional, objective goal for myself personally. Like what I thought the work would do for me therapy-wise was like, okay, this will help me clarity. A nocturnal drive through the woods and finding clarity can feel like having to search your way through the wilderness. I thought I'd find my way out. Turns out that life has you, listeners out there, that the brutal truth is you may not find clarity, if at all, you know? You always have to, I learned that the hard way in the past couple of years, that you find it for 2 seconds, but that doesn't mean it'll stay. You have to reevaluate clarity every couple pivotal moments. It's an ongoing thing. It's not a destination, it's a journey, you know? And that narrative just kind of expanded into this Peter Pan complex, or this Jumanji complex, where Robin Williams was waiting for somebody to roll a 5 or an 8. You know what I'm saying? He kind of just made do with like, what do I do being lost in the woods for this long? I gotta make home for myself here. I gotta make solace and shelter, you know? And then hierarchy and sociology plays, and the psyche of the human mind starts to really play with the environment that they're in and make home in it. So that's a really deep version of that answer, because I made that first body of work and I thought I was going to get it out. I thought I just had to get it off my chest. No, it just expanded. The idea just, it opened me up into like a wormhole of storytelling, like this Peter Pan and the Lost Boys complex, this castaway complex that like really, I mean, I have pages of it. I don't really sketch a lot. I write down a lot. I do a lot of free writing, and to avoid like feeling defeated and not being able to translate a sketch to like real size, I stopped sketching a long time ago, and I just write down, I want to see this character doing this because it represents this, and top right corner blue, and I'll blueprint it. I'll write it out, you know, I'll write it out, and I'll write out all the specs. Like I think it should be on a small piece or a big piece, a big canvas, small canvas, whatever, triptych, diptych, single, whatever. And I do that a lot. I write down a lot. I don't really sketch that much. And then when I have enough source references, source material is when I'll look for a reference. Like, oh, I saw this picture on like the Gak Kids website of this kid playing and it looked kind of cool. Like that's where I'll start drawing, you know? And,
so it's just kind of like the preparation. I mean, even with me, I do illustration. I have my own kind of prep work where it's just like finding the references, finding research behind the piece that you're going to work on. So it's just your way of preparing for like the final pieces, right?
Yeah. And that's what I go through. So when I made this collection of work, oh man, like it just left me writing for days and all that to say, the story is expanded, and it is expanding. So 2021 comes around, you know, COVID being what it was and the pandemic or whatever, I come out the gate. Muñeca Art House and I wanted to get back to things, and we have a great relationship. I love them over there, that team. Jess is my sister, like a sister to me. So, you know what I mean? Like when we wanted to get back into things, I wanted to do like a deluxe edition. I've always had this dream, again, music terms, you know, Michael Jackson putting out like the 25th anniversary edition. I want to do that someday when I'm gone. Someday there's going to be the Clarity 10th anniversary or whatever. I want to do that now. I'm planting the seed now. So what you do before that, you do a bonus album. Like Bad had 10 tracks, and the 11th was the bonus album with Leave Me Alone as track 11. And so I pitched it to her like, yo, I want to do like a Clarity like deluxe edition, like a CD. Like, you know, we'll show some of the work that didn't sell, and then I'll respond with new work, continuing the narrative and new work that I've made over the past year since the show. Loved it. She loved it. I loved it. First show back, what a shout out to everybody who was there. It was dope. It was like so intimate and so right, like just the right amount of people, the right amount of clients. A lot of the paintings sold. It got out past Long Island, which was great. People, you know, in Connecticut came to buy. Collectors from over there came to buy. It was dope. It was really cool. I couldn't have asked for more. I was flattered, man. Being disattached and in the wormhole that was the pandemic for so long, coming back out of that to that love was great. I was flattered. And so that's that. Like that and that narrative is going to continue. It's going to continue.
Yeah.
Like my cadence is going to change. The story is going to develop, and I'll add extending thesis notes or extending narrative plot twists or character arcs, but that's really what it is. And film too, kind of, you know, being a film head has a lot to do with it too. Like a Tarantino, a Tarantino, his language, what he,
Yes,
the way he kind of depicts characters. And my favorite parts of his movies are his conversations. His movies are so conversational. The scripts are not these, they're these monologues placed in these gorgeous back and forths, So I think I'm just trying to do that. I'm just trying to develop my flavor, my flair. Like, what palette I work with. Now, whatever story I tell, you're going to listen because you know the palette. You know what I'm going to offer. And anything I add on to that is just growth. It's just, oh, man, Kendrick's rapping with like a new flavor, but it reminds me of a good kid. You know what I mean? Or like, damn, it was dope and it felt like an extension of To Pimp, like that's kind of how I see it.
That's a great transition to then the last question that I have for you before we get into movies. What is success to you? Like, when do you think you've reached it, or, you feel good at where you're at?
Man, I appreciate you, man. I needed a good conversation like this. I appreciate you very much. This is crazy. I don't know. I think
it's a hard question. I know, and
it is tough. It is tough because not to cut you off or
no, yeah.
Anything. I think success, and I'm learning this, in real time as a human being in my own life, personally and professionally. That truth, success, clarity, it's all very malleable, man. Whoever thinks you get it once and you're done is, I don't know if I feel the same.
No, the totem pole keeps moving.
Right. When you advance and you if you really want this, if you really want everything that the human experience has to offer, professionally or personally, you make goals and choices and you set objectives and you meet those things. What, that's it? No, you set new goals. You set new goals, you set new objectives, and I think, and that's the thing. That leads to all the other avenues being just as malleable. Like, that means that, my truth, what was true to me in 2015 is not true to me now. Like, my capabilities, the ceiling I had over my head is not as, it's not as tangible as I thought it was. Things that I thought were not possible are possible. Things that I thought I could do, I needed more time. Things that I thought worked for me are not, and vice versa. So success, I think it has to do with whatever biblical reference that is. I'm not very religious in practice, but I'm a man of faith, and in that regard of like, what's it say? Like, Lord, give me the solidarity or the whatever to accept the things that I can't change, and the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is. I think when you know yourself, that's success. When you know yourself in every room you walk into, and you can be completely, transparent with your level of accountability that you use in the mirror. If I could look at myself and admit that I'm poorly made, but also admit my strengths and work at them both, work on, myself. And if I have the tools to do all that stuff, I think that's success. If I have the tools to work on myself as abundantly as possible and to know myself, I think that's pretty cool. If I get that, I'll be happy. You know what I'm saying? And tools is a very malleable word too. Tools, money, tools, time, tools, people, my friends, my peers. Tools as in, the abilities I have to make art, like the space, the materials. Like, I think success is when you have the tools to be yourself and know yourself abundantly and work on yourself as much as you want. And, I think that's a tough question. That's tough.
No, it's a tough question, but yours has been one of the most unique ones, Haven't really heard that kind of perspective on that question yet, and like I said, it's hard for anybody to answer, really. I mean, we're all working at where we want to be, but like I said before, it's just it's constantly moving. You're never gonna really be satisfied at what point you're at,
right. And then this too, Albert, this is like something that's actually been on my mind on like a real-time personal tip. Someday I hope like we can look back on this like, yo, you really gave me food for thought on that last collection you made. Like, yo, this really led to like some big keynotes. it's been on my mind lately, man. Like, you're absolutely right in the way that you said it. It's always moving. It's always, the totem pole's always rising. It's always growing. There's always, this is an ever growing experience. It's not over. It's not done. And these are all facts that we know when we're told them. When we're told energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transferred. Oh yeah, duh. Of course, it's obvious. But do you have the empathy, the patience, and the accountability to look in the mirror and say that you too will have to give back the energy that you've been given? That's some real shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I look at life now, man. Like, after last year, like, our time is precious. Don't play with me.
Yeah,
I want to see
we lost the whole year, dude.
Me. I'm ready to go at all times. Like, I'm ready. And that's not on some, like, pessimistic, like, emo dark thing or anything. That's on, it's the opposite. I love life that much that I'm not taking any second for granted. Don't play with me. You know what I mean? Like, we play for keeps on this end. I play for all the cards because I love what I do that much. I'm that passionate. You know what I mean? And even in that truth, even in that, I was just talking about it last night with Dudley. Like, you can't please everybody. There's people on this planet who only know the most popular Michael Jackson songs. There's some people who don't know who Pause or Kehinde Wiley are, or they don't know where the Mona Lisa is located. You can't please everybody, but I feel like social media and the way artists, if we're talking just specifically about that, we want everybody to know. I don't care no more, dog. I know myself.
No, I mean, there's a niche for everything,
Right. And that's the thing. And then some people, because even me, some people will even hear niche like, oh, what? So like only a certain type of people? No, man, stop. Just live abundantly. Be yourself. Authenticity is the key to making art. Great art is authentic. Great art is true. You know what I'm saying? I make work for people in my hood. I make work for, you don't got to know me to understand and like it. I make work for people in Beijing. I make work for people in Spain and Italy and wherever. I make work for the planet. I don't live in New York. My earth is my home. You know what I'm saying? And someday when my body has to be given back to the earth, there will come a time, Banksy said it best, you die twice, when your body's dead and when somebody says your name for the last time. That's going to happen. And I'm not scared anymore. You know what I'm saying? I know myself. I know my truth. I'm not scared. You know what I'm saying? So with that lack of fear, with that courage, I'm going to live and paint every painting like it's my last. Because I don't care if it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good. I know myself. So I think that's where my perspective on success changed. Like, I'm just happy to be able to work on myself. Yeah. I'm happy success is the opportunity to work on yourself abundantly and to know yourself and to acknowledge what you have to work on. Because there's people that live blindly in ego or narcissism or insecurity, and they might not work on themselves the right way in their lifetime. It might be over and they say, man, I could have been more courageous. Or, man, I was an asshole. I was cocky. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. I work on myself every day in real time, and that's what I want my work to show. That's where I get passionate. That's where I get crazy. That's where I get on my Tupac. Like, yo,
I see it.
I'm trying to move the culture, man. Like, I'm trying to move people. People come to my shows and they cry, and they've never met me before. They just see the work, they read the stories on the canvas, and they cry. And I don't take that for granted, dude. That really changed me in the way I see life. That really changed me. If I could do that for somebody, I'm gonna do it. It would be a disservice to those who created me, to my ancestors, for me to do anything less. You know what I mean?
That's amazing, man. I mean, you couldn't have answered it better myself, dude. That was great.
Yeah, man. I feel very, I care. I care a lot about art, man.
We got heavy into it, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That was a great conversation.
Like I told you, I needed this, man. Like, if it didn't show that I needed this conversation, I really did, man. When this is all said and done, man, when my body is bone and ash, whatever it becomes, when it's earth again, I really want people to look back on what I left behind. Like, yo, he's a real dude. He was a good guy. He was a solid guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he really cared about this. He really cared about, the voice and what it takes to do it, And I just hope whoever comes after, if they take any food for thought, I'm happy. I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm cool. If one
and that's why it's so important to have these conversations.
Kid, if one little kid's like, word, he's dope. He made me feel like it was possible. That's cool. I'm down. Whether you choose to pursue it or not. Man. If I gave you the faith and the idea and the perception that it can be possible, it is, my friend, and I'm glad you realized that through me.
Awesome. All right, so let's have the last question, which is always the fun one, because we do get heavy in the podcast. So when we
Yeah, we
talk
get
about
deep, man.
movies, we talk about movies, then it's a little bit chill and it's a great send off.
Word.
So, what are your movie recommendations right now? What have you seen recently? What are you into?
Oh man, movie recommendations right now. Um, I feel like I've been kind of out of touch. I've been working. I had the 2 back-to-back shows this year. I haven't seen a lot of movies recently that oh my God moved me.
Yeah, I mean, we've also been stuck inside for so long. I mean,
Yeah,
they've
that
moved
right.
it
That
from
affected it
like,
too, for sure.
yeah, like they've moved it from the big screens to now a lot of them are being streamed when they come out. So
So they
it
just come
changes
and go.
things.
I
I
can't even keep
understand.
up.
Yeah.
I can't even keep up. And like, there's this like indie theater that I go watch like a bunch of foreign films at that like
Yeah.
I can't go there anymore. Well, I can go now, but I couldn't for such a long time is what I mean. But I'll go through some of my favorite movies if that helps. If like not
Yeah,
any
yeah, let's do it.
recommendations to like what I'm watching now, but like some of my
Yeah.
favorite movies of all time. Whatchamacallit, The Danish Girl. Eddie Redmayne, was it like 2000, like 15, 16? No, 16 or 17. Eddie Redmayne, The Danish Girl.
Eddie
Oh man,
Redmayne.
biopic
Let
about
me
the
see.
first documented transgendered woman. Artist nonetheless
Okay.
from Denmark, painter. Beautiful movie. Soundtrack by Alexandre Desplat. Beautiful. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies. Story wise, emotionally wise, color palette wise, cinematography wise, it was gorgeous. Gorgeous movie. What Dreams May Come, what you call Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robin Williams was like 96 or 95. That was great. That's like my jam. That's like my movie. I'm a
Yeah.
big Robin Williams guy. I relate a lot. I feel a lot of spiritual connections with Robin Williams. I love him. And I got him tattooed on my
Yeah, I
leg and
mean,
everything.
we lost him so
Ah, dude.
tragically, man,
Yeah,
but
man. He really
he brought it in, man, with all the joy that
yeah,
he always made sure that everybody was laughing, you know.
that conduit complex. I really feel like that
Yeah.
was him, man. He was just a vessel for something so much more, so much bigger than even him, even than his human experience, you know?
Yeah.
And so I relate. That's a whole nother conversation. Like I said, we could do this
Yeah,
all
we
over
could go
again and
all
go
out, but let's
right
keep it
into
light.
film.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it light. So then
Yeah. And then,
you
you know,
got
it
it.
was another joint that was fire, that was
Which
absolutely
one?
moving, and I'll leave it at that. If Beale Street Could Talk.
Beale
The
Street Could Talk.
Yeah,
Let
the
me
film
look
adaptation of
that up.
that James Baldwin book. Oh man, dude, beautiful soundtrack by Nicholas
Oh
Britell.
yeah, I saw it when this came out. I never got to see it
Gorgeous.
though,
That
but
was
it
great.
looked
That was
good.
great. That was great. That could lead me on a whole nother riff of film. But those are like off the top of my head. Those are like the 3,
Yeah,
4
yeah.
films. That Steve Jobs biopic with Seth Rogen and the guy that plays Magneto. Uh,
Steve.
Matt,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Michael Fassbender, whatever his name
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. I
That's
know
another
the
one.
one.
And I'll leave it at that. Those are the ones.
So you,
Danish
yeah, you
Girl.
like a lot of story based, but like historical kind of
Oh yeah,
films.
yeah. I love like historical fiction, biopics, like Titanic, pound for pound, is the greatest film of all time. Like no cap. Whoever
Yeah,
says otherwise is a liar. Like Blockbuster, like if it was a stat card, if there was like stats, that'd be the perfect baseball card. Like it had blockbuster power. It had a powerhouse cast, soundtrack that was on 3000,
yeah.
cinematography that was out of this world at the time.
I mean, you can't.
Historical
It's James
fiction.
Cameron. You know, he hasn't
Yeah,
he
bro. You
hasn't
don't miss.
fumbled. So
I mean,
I
he
mean,
misses now to me, but
what do
him
you
and
think? What did
Spielberg.
he miss? What he miss?
What's the one? I have a friend that I talk to a lot. My friend Danny. Him and I are movie heads, and he put me on. Oh, I'm gonna text you about it
Yeah,
after because I can't remember it now.
I
But
can look him up now.
yeah.
So are you talking? I know a lot of people. With Avatar, it was like a hit or miss on
That
that
I thought that
movie.
was fire. I thought that was
Yeah.
dope. I definitely thought that was dope.
Let's see. We got The Abyss. Alita Battle Angel was amazing.
Fire,
Uh,
fire. I love
amazing.
that one. I
Terminator.
love
You
that
can't go
one.
wrong with Terminator. All those are fire.
Right.
Let's see. Ghost of the Abyss, Piranha, Point Break.
Where is it? Maybe it was Point Break.
I mean, Rambo. He did part 2.
I love Sylvester Stallone. The Rocky franchise is one of the greatest
Dude, the
franchises of
Rocky,
all time.
yeah.
I love Rocky. He's my next portrait tattoo.
Oh man, and Creed, dude. When Creed came out, I was all up on that, dude. That was amazing.
It might have been Point Break that gets a lot of acclaim that I'm like, as much as I love my man Stone.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like you said, there's
yeah, this is the one. This is the one for sure. This is
Point
the one.
Break.
I'm looking it up on my phone now.
Yeah.
This is the one too. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get why this like. But it's again, it's a lot like Spielberg. Like, what? That's so corny. But no, like they're made to excite you. Like they're fun movies, you know.
With me, I like a lot of visuals. Like cinematography has been something that I've grown to just love.
Same,
like, a lot.
Same.
So like when I'm like watching movies by Dennis Villanueva, like Dune, you know.
Yeah,
like, when you're watching in the big screen. Oh, dude, you gotta watch it in IMAX though. You don't watch it like on a small TV or anything. You gotta watch it in IMAX. So it's like it's so immersive.
Yeah,
the way
I've heard
he built that world.
Wild, and I heard it did really good. It did really right by the book too.
Yeah, I never read the book, but
me neither.
From the movie standards, I fucking loved it. I mean, that was my first experience. I never saw the original Dune.
Me neither. I didn't even know it was like a thing. But my boy loved the book. He loves it's like his favorite book of all time, and I love. We have a very similar taste in movies and perspectives and opinions on movies. So he was like, dude, like, it's magic. It's absolute magic. And I love very visually stimulating movies like that too. Like, you know, The Aviator, another.
Yeah, that's a fucking long one.
How Leo didn't win Oscar for that is cap. It's crazy.
I mean, a lot of his movies were like that, dude. It's just like
dude,
you could have sworn he was gonna win it, and it didn't happen.
That was the one where I was like, "Wow, it's like this is rigged." The Aviator.
But Revenant was great, and I'm glad he won for that.
Yeah, Revenant was great.
He ate raw meat for that role, so
yeah. And wasn't he like vegetarian and stuff? Like it was like a big deal for him or something.
Yeah. I mean, it was just straight up like the heart. Like whatever you saw on screen, that was legit.
Like no joke. That was like the deciding factor of whether he could or couldn't do the movie, and the fact that he did. It's testimony to his artistry. Yeah. Great. Yeah, I mean, oh man, I could go on a tangent, man. Like,
dude, yeah. Another one that was always great that a lot of people again was like a hit or miss. Was Blade Runner 2049.
I didn't watch it.
Ah, dude.
And that's the one. That's another one that like I've heard both. I've heard people like, "Oh my god, it's incredible," and then nah, it's whack.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into visuals, you're into like the score of the movie.
I'm a big soundtrack guy.
Exactly, it's super good, dude. I feel like you would enjoy it. You would have to watch the original, like the first Blade Runner, just so you can get an idea of like who the recurring cast is.
Right,
and then. What was the other one that? Joker. I fucking loved. I have the score on vinyl. My buddy got it for me for my, I think it was for my birthday.
Beautiful.
Or Christmas, yeah. Beautiful. And I would just listen to that like every couple of days or so.
Yeah,
dude. So
Young
good.
Penny is like perfect. That's like my favorite track on that score. That was great. Because it was a really cool tie between like ominous tension, like genuinely on the edge of breaking, and like these absolute spacious, ambient, very sensitive moments like Young Penny, you know? Like, I love that dichotomy. Dichotomy is another word that I really live by. I love that word. And I try to document the dichotomies of my life as much as possible. So like, the hot and cold on that album is really dope. I love that score. Johnny Depp, Kate Winslet, Finding Neverland. Oh, that movie's beautiful. It's so I could cry just thinking about it. It's so magical. Oh, that's another one that lights me up. Dude. And again, that's another biopic now that I'm realizing it.
Yeah.
The story of J.M. Barrie and how he wrote Peter Pan, the play.
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta watch it. It's such a perfect blend of like drama and adult concepts and story, and these wonderful, fantastical, whimsy, fantasy-driven scene breaks where he's talking to the kid. That's one of my favorites for sure. Yeah. It's up there. I love that. I listen to that soundtrack like at least 3 times a day. At least 3 times a day.
I've been getting more and more into like the movie scores and everything. Like I said, cinematography has always been my bigger thing. Like I always enjoy looking at who did it, and then I'll like go to their websites or anything and just see what their concepts are because their compositions are insane.
Right.
But now it's just like I'm more focusing on the scores and shit. I'm like actually listening to the albums, and then I'll listen to the music and then rewatch the movie and see where it lands.
Yeah, and isn't that so much fun to see like what it does or doesn't do to a scene and stuff like that? And I'm a big horror movie head too. Like I grew up.
What do you enjoy on that?
Oh man, like horror. I'm big on like monster movies, like Pumpkinhead and like Creatures, and like
not many people have seen stuff like that. Yeah,
I love those. I was raised on my grandfather, God rest his soul, was a big movie head, which led to like the whole family like just being movie heads.
That's
like
awesome.
Us with Disney. Like I know what movies are MGM Studios, and I know what movies are Walt Disney. I know what movies are DreamWorks. I know what movies are, all these production companies, Like I watched a lot of. I was just engulfed. Like I lived at Blockbuster. That was like what I got for rewards for doing one school. Like going to just rent whatever I wanted, and then like we had X amount of time for my sister and I to watch TV, and then 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock when it was time for my grandfather's dinner, whatever, he'd be like, "Okay, papi, ya, tranquilo, ya es tiempo para mí." Like he'd say, like it's my time to watch a movie. So Carlito's Way, The Sopranos, LA Confidential, Scarface.
Yeah, those are the classics.
You know what I'm saying? Like the classic Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, all these movies. And then my mom was a horror movie head. So like on Saturday nights, we'd like go rent a scary movie. And like my grandfather would like it. My grandparents would watch it with my it'd be like a whole thing. So we watched like Pumpkinhead and like Leprechaun and the original, It and all the Nightmare on Elm Streets were really cool as a kid. The Wishmaster, which is a Wes Craven joint, slept on. Really cool movie. It's called The Wishmaster.
The Wishmaster. And like I haven't seen that.
Horror movie makeup, like it's so cool. It hasn't aged well at all, but nostalgically, it's really cool. The concept behind The Wishmaster is really cool. And like the makeup was just really dope. The Exorcist is like the scariest movie of all time. That and Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre might be the greatest horror movies of all time. Oh yeah,
the original one was actually really good.
Was great. Was incredible. Yeah. Was genuinely eerie at a time where like eerie was hard to define on film.
Yeah.
Palette. A lot of film goes by like how creepy that movie was in like the dialogue and like the space between the awkward conversations and stuff. Like
and I mean we get those kinds of movies every couple like years. Remember when Get Out came out, and that was like great. Such a big deal. Did you like Us? Oh yeah, I loved that.
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it? What? No, why? Why not?
I feel like because Get Out was an incredible. I don't like to pick and like judge based on previous works, but I felt a little guilty of it, that like Get Out was such a digestible and streamlined. Oh my God, it fed me in such a digestible way, and it was tense and alleviating in all the right places. The timing was great. It was just a really great film overall. And I feel like Jordan Peele, if I ever meet you, man, I'm gonna tell you this to your face too. Don't even think like I won't. I feel like he got the green light. And that green light led to like, okay, now I can really tell a different type of story. But it was just very avant-garde in the symbolism, and like a lot just kind of went over my head as a viewer. Like there wasn't much explanation to the White Rabbits, which I thought cinematically was gorgeous, was incredible, was a very cool concept that really was appealing viscerally, but didn't get explained in film. Mm-hmm. And like all of that just to be like there were doppelgangers underground. That's you know what I mean? And maybe that's my bias. I'm more of like a spiritual horror suspense person. Right. I like more metaphoric. Even in the way I talk, you can hear it.
I mean, I think it was metaphorical in the sense of what it was. I didn't like get it. I didn't go on a deep dive of like an explained video or anything, but
maybe I owe that to myself to watch it again and like go through one of those, because I just felt like there was a lot of metaphors and symbolism that like visually were really fun to watch. It just didn't mean much to the ultimate solution or the ultimate outcome being that there was just these twin people underground. You know what I'm saying? And then also I digested from the trailer and from the narrative, from the synopsis you get online before the movie comes out. I felt like Us, and even the title, I thought it was more of like the enemy is us. Like it's this dark thing, and then for it to be a totally separate, tangible other human being that just happened to look like you, distance itself from the metaphor that is the title to me. But again, I owe myself another watch.
I mean, maybe that's what it actually means, though.
Maybe, right,
Yeah,
right.
but
Maybe
you just didn't. You just didn't grasp it. I don't know. Like I said, I
flew
haven't.
over my head
Like
for sure.
when I on my first like watch, I loved it. You know, like I just loved like again just the layout of it, and I feel like Jordan Peele is making his own avenue in the horror genre.
I agree with that 100%, and that's
like,
why I wasn't mad at it.
Like you haven't seen any kind of horror film like the two that he's come out with, and now I don't know if you saw this because it was so like random, but they made a film called Karen, which was basically a copy and paste of that of like a Jordan Peele Get Out movie.
No way.
But basically, it was just like, you know, like you've heard the term of Karen, like the annoying like neighbor or whatever. But it's just that like a black family moves into a white neighborhood, and then this one lady is like trying to get them out and like
that's setting them up. Whack.
Like she has like a brother that's a cop and everything, and it's just like you see this and you're just like you just ripped off Jordan Peele.
That's so bad.
Yeah. So,
I do agree with that. That like whatever he puts out, I'm happy that he's making it because it is one of he's really expanding the artistry of horror art, because like horror art has always been on a film level and like in actual like Predator and Alien were like my favorite movies as a kid, and like the monsters and the makeups, these characters, what's led me
they
to,
never
like,
really
Dragon
get
Ball
awards,
like, these
right?
Monsters, you know,
they never get like recognized in like the Academy
It becomes this like very young thing.
Yeah,
but they're very adult concepts. Like The Thing, so fire. The Thing,
yes,
the first one and the remake I thought was really cool too. I thought the remake was good. And like I just think these elements of like fear, I think fear is such a mature concept. It's such a real thing that kids and adults can feel, and something like The Exorcist, whether you're a person of faith or not, this idea of skepticism and your reality being challenged and questioned in front of your very eyes through something so viscerally terrifying as that. Like, come on, that's art.
Yeah, man.
Like, that's what I want from my people.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I like metal music. I like the excitement of being scared and being pushed to the limit. And James Wan is a genius, man. The Conjuring series, the Conjuring universe is probably the best series of horror movies that we've gotten since the Texas remakes.
I'm too pussy sometimes. Like, I can handle some horror, but like, there's certain movies that I'm just like, I'm good.
No, The Conjuring. Yo, the first one, I saw all of them in the theaters, and he did the Insidious movies as well, which were great.
Ah, dude, that red mask at
fire, bro. That's hard, bro. That's like
it fucked me up, dude. After that, I was just like, I'm good. I don't need to be scared for the rest of my life. I'm good.
Any Easter eggs that I can leave with you and whoever listens to my next collection of work will be a lot more. I don't want to be as like kitschy to say it's like horror, but like it's gonna have some attitude that I've had. Yeah. It's going to have a level that might be a little bit more scary than what I've been. I want to have that level of like, oh my God, my chest, like I'm nervous right now.
Right, really right. Just like that wow factor, that like fear.
I guess what I'm saying, the heartstrings and the mental strings that get pulled in horror movies or suspense, I'm tapping into that for sure. So people are going to get a lot of like the very, energetic color and positive likenesses, but in that sense of documenting dichotomy, I'm definitely going to go a little deeper on that end of the spectrum for sure. And that's something I pull from these movies of like, oh my God, they make me just like,
movies
I saw
are so
the first
important,
Conjuring in the theater, bro. I had a knot in my throat. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I can't watch this. Like, I can't finish this movie. I'm not going to make it. I was terrified. And my friend Dudley, we watched La Llorona together. And that's another one from this universe, from this director.
Yeah.
He don't scare easy. I scare very easily. That's another full disclaimer too, that I talk, very confidently about these movies. You startle me from a corner, I yell. I'm like, ah! I'm very easy to scare. Very anybody who knows me personally, like on that level, that like knows I'm very easy to scare. He's not easy to scare, and he was watching it and he's like, yo, I'm terrified right now. He's like, I'm genuinely shaking, dude. Like,
I feel like just like in general, like the Hispanic horror genre is so much scarier, I feel, because that's where we're coming from. And then like I remember when like I forget the Dominican movie that came out. I'm I'm losing the name, but it was just basically like a woman in the village that was like a ghost that was just like out to kill people and shit. She was like a possessed or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
it's just like to think like you're in a remote place like that, like in the campo, and then
Oh
you know
yeah, dude. What
there's
nationality are you?
I'm
What are you?
Dominican.
Oh yeah. Oh word.
Yeah,
Word.
yeah.
I'm Salvadorian and Cuban. I would have never guessed Dominican.
Yo, that's a great mix. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have guessed that either. But
Yeah. There you go. We both left
yeah,
both
yeah.
left field for sure.
So
Oh
yeah, like I
man,
just
that's
feel
cool.
like with the Hispanic heart, I feel like there's something else to it because Hispanics are so religious and everything, and a lot has to
Right.
do with being possessed and shit. And
Right.
like hearing the stories of like the church going through exorcism and shit.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know.
And like
It's
that's the
something
thing,
about
like it
that.
scares me and like I talk about it a lot. Like of course it terrifies me. Of course I don't want that knocking on my door or whatever. Of
Yeah.
course I'm spiritual in that sense. But as a artist, as a spectator, I just love the complex. I love the idea, most of the time catalyzed through something like spirituality or possession or whatever, this question of human existence. Who's in control? What happens when that person or that entity loses control? What is the meaning of life? What is all these questions that get catalyzed through the realm of spirituality, and for a lot of Spanish families, like, modern Catholicism or Christianity,
Yeah.
like all these, I'm not very religious in that sense, but I love the questions that it leads to. I love the questions, that these philosophical life questions that pertain to the human experience, that these horror movies really, like, they question, they force you to the point of like what's real and what's not. And I love the idea that in one of the Conjuring movies, they were talking to a judge about a real documented case, again, historical biopics.
Yeah.
Like, I love the element of real life. They're talking to this judge about possession and whatever, and they're like, no, you can't say that this person he did it because he was possessed by the devil. And the main character, Ed Warren, goes, well, the Constitution or whoever acknowledges God. It's about time that they start acknowledging the devil too. And I think that's such a great point, that like we
Right.
live in the abundance of what we can see in front of our eyes, but we're terrified of what's in the dark. And
Yeah.
there is no dark without light. Hate cannot, exist without love. We wouldn't understand the difference between the two. We wouldn't know up without a down, We wouldn't, and Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code, those movies with Tom Hanks, those are other ones
Yeah.
that lead to the deeper questions that we've built an entire society and way of life on, Anything that gets me in that wormhole, like, oh, I could talk about it. Like the Eternals that just came out, I saw that yesterday. It didn't do too well on Rotten Tomatoes, but I saw it.
Yeah.
It led to a lot of these questions, like who's in control, what's right and what's wrong, this spiritual conflict,
Yeah, I still gotta watch that.
I really cling to stuff like that. I think that stuff is mad interesting in any form of art, like where we question reality, great art makes you ask questions. And that's what I get out of horror art. Like, it makes you ask questions. It makes you question what's real, what's not. Is that a stack of clothes on my chair, or is that a figure in the dark? I live for that thrill, man. I hope I can catalyze some of those same feelings with whatever experience my art journey and my art career takes me down. I'm definitely going to be in that bag someday for sure. Like, I want to be the Alfred Hitchcock of art. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. All right, dude. I think this is a perfect time to call it.
Yo, yeah,
great
man.
Conversation, man. I had a lot of fun.
I know, dude. Another tip. We'll go grab a beer sometime and just go down the lens of film, because that's like a whole nother bag.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I really do.
Thank you for coming at such short notice, man. I needed somebody and you came through, and thanks again.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, if you needed it, whether you wanted it, I'm happy to do it. So, you know what I mean?
So let everybody know where they could find you. What should they be looking forward to, like shows or anything?
I mean, I'm thankful to just have the conversation, man. It's all good over here on my end. I had a very successful calendar year with these gallery shows that I put on and I put forth. So between the work getting to collectors and going to auction and doing this and that and doing its wraparounds on other shows and stuff, it was a chess move to give myself time. And now I'm just back in studio mode. I'm just making as peacefully, as abundantly as I can. taking all the food for thought I've taken in the past year, 3 years, and putting it all into a really big, ambitious, concise body of work. And that's it. Just stay tuned on Instagram at Diego AGC to kind of watch whatever
Diego
transpires
AGC,
from here on out.
All right, man. Thanks again. You have a great night, all right?
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, later, dude.
Peace.
Peace.